Part 105. Big wedding in the Holy Dynasty after receiving the Riyao dynasty as a dowry. Just after several countries signed the covenant, when they were going to send envoys to the Riyao dynasty to discuss the alliance and resistance with the monarch of the Riyao dynasty, a shocking news came, which frightened the kings of several small countries to turn pale. Especially the king of Mengyan Kingdom. When he heard the report from the spies, his mouth was trembling with anger. Is the regent of the Riyao dynasty sick? He even took the rivers and mountains of the Riyao dynasty as a betrothal gift and wanted to marry Prince Junhua of the Holy Dynasty. Isn't this sick? What kind of character is Prince Junhua, and how can he marry him? My subordinates heard that Emperor Shengdu directly rejected the envoy of the Riyao dynasty at that time, and said that if the Riyao dynasty wanted to fight, they would fight. The spies reported the news truthfully. What does this mean? The king of Mengyan Kingdom looked puzzled. He was too shocked by the operation of the regent of the Riyao dynasty just now, so he ignored what the spies said later. The spy lowered his head and repeated what he had said before. Back to the king, there is also a message in the letter of marriage of the Riyao dynasty, saying that if Prince Junhua does not marry, then don't think about the Riyao dynasty's submission. If you want the Riyao dynasty, rely on your ability and then take it. This is a good thing. As long as Emperor Shengdu doesn't pass to marry Prince Junhua, then they still have a chance. Seeing a glimmer of light, he hurriedly sent messengers to the Riyao dynasty. And Zheng Yi of the Holy City was so angry that he almost turned the table over by a letter from Baiming Qianyu, who is his younger brother, Prince Junhua of the Holy Dynasty, a dignified prince. How could he marry off? If this were to happen, where would they put the face of their Holy Dynasty? Before, I admired Baiming Qianyu's intelligence, and thought that if he surrendered, I would give him a province to take care of. Who knows that other people's hearts are not enough to swallow elephants? And they dare to ask my own brother to marry. For him, bah, it's really a fucking white dream of spring and autumn. Zheng Yi was so angry that he even learned Yi Yang's curse words. Looking down at the marriage letter made of fine gold wire on the desk, I can't wait to tear this letter to shreds. Yi Yang looked at the second content of the letter to the relatives, and always felt strange. What is it? If you don't marry, then you will meet on the battlefield. How weird is this one? It seems to be blackmailing someone, Your Majesty. Don't you think the second one is a little weird? Yi Yang pointed to the second one and asked in confusion. Zheng Yi looked at the second article repeatedly and shook his head. What's so weird? This Baiming Qianyu is here to disgust me, because he knows that our Holy Dynasty is now facing internal and external troubles, and he is sure that we dare not fight them head-on. That's why I offered such a condition to insult our dynasty. HMPH, I don't believe it anymore. With Mo Yan's ability, I can't win the Riyao dynasty with only more than 300,000 soldiers. They are not afraid of the more than 600,000 Wangyu dynasty, don't they? Are you still afraid of the Riyao dynasty? The weakest army? The most irritating thing is that Baiming Qianyu obviously has someone he likes, but he still wants to marry his younger brother. Isn't this an insult to his younger brother? Since Baiming Qianyu is unkind, don't blame him for being unrighteous. Before, he also considered that the Riyao dynasty had helped their Holy Dynasty many times. And he also thought of leaving Baiming Qianyu to die. Now it seems that he is too kind. Yi Yang shook his head, pointing to the second article reading, if you don't marry, then we will meet on the battlefield. This Baiming Qianyu knows the strength of our Holy Dynasty, so why does he say we will meet on the battlefield? He shouldn't be the first. Sending a letter to the relatives, will you join the alliance with the surrounding small countries after being rejected? Meeting directly on the battlefield. It was as if he was persecuting someone with his own life. What about him? Since Baiming Qianyu wants to court death, that will fulfill him. Zheng Yi only felt that the dignity of their royal family had been greatly insulted. So he would use the blood of Baiming Qianyu to wash away the insults suffered by their royal family. So, he ordered General Lan, who was stationed outside the imperial city, to prepare an army immediately and prepare to go to Yushui Gate. Since we want to fight, we can capture the Ri Yao dynasty as quickly as possible, so that the surrounding small countries can't support it. To fight, it is natural to prepare food and grass first, but it took more than half a month to prepare food and grass. After the food and grass were transported out of the city, when the soldiers in the rear were ready to go, Zheng Hua, who was thousands of miles away, only used half. It took more than a few months to arrive at the holy city from Wangyu City. He looked pale and tired after not resting along the way. He hurriedly walked into the Star Palace, and when he saw Zheng Yi, he directly gave a big gift. When Zheng Yi saw Zheng Hua lose weight, he felt distressed for a while. He hurriedly stepped forward to help Zheng Hua. When he saw Zheng Hua's handsome and unparalleled face showing a pale and tired look, his heart ached. Ziqing, what's wrong with you? Zheng Yi didn't expect that his younger brother would become so thin after not seeing him for a few months. Zheng Hua had no intention of caring about his body at all. He looked at Zheng Yi and asked with a trembling voice, Emperor brother, are you really going to attack the Ri Yao dynasty? A pain, as if the heart had been gouged out alive, bloody pain. He never thought about it, just thinking that the person would die. His heart hurt so much that he couldn't breathe. As soon as Zheng Hua mentioned this matter, Zheng Yi became angry and hummed. Then how could I let go of Baiming Qianyu so easily if he humiliated you so much? He could not remove the anger in his heart. Who can this Baiming Qianyu marry? Why do you have to pick Zheng Hua? Zheng Hua is his younger brother. How could Baiming Qianyu be so insulted? Zheng Hua looked at Zheng Yi with an angry face and smiled bitterly in his heart. When he left the Ri Yao dynasty, it was not because he was afraid that Zheng Yi would fully oppose the marriage after he knew about it, so he secretly left the Ri Yao dynasty. What he didn't expect was that Baiming Qianyu was so persistent that he left the entire Ri Yao dynasty to search for him all over the continent, and finally found him. He said so many ruthless words that day, thinking that Baiming Qianyu would let go. But who would have thought that Baiming Qianyu would threaten him with his life, leaving him with no way out? Looking up, tears ran down his cheeks, leaving two obvious tears. Emperor brother, what if the younger brother says I am willing to marry? At this moment, he realized that it doesn't matter what face. My face is not that important. As long as that person lives, he will be resigned from the throne. He is also willing. Zheng Yi stared at the tears on Zheng Hua's face. Shock flashed in his eyes. Ziqing, you. What is a willingness to marry? He is a prince, how can there be a reason to marry? Are you crazy? Zheng Yi felt that Zheng Hua was a little abnormal, otherwise how could he say what he wanted to marry? Also, doesn't Baiming Qianyu have someone he likes? Before, in order to find a male concubine, he issued a bounty at a sky-high price, and he even heard about it in the Holy Dynasty. Is such a person who has a heart. Zheng Hua will not be wronged when he married? Zheng Hua looked firm, knelt on the ground, straightened his back, and said word by word, if the emperor does not agree, then ask the emperor to collect the corpse for the younger brother. Zheng Yi was so angry at Zheng Hua, he didn't expect Zheng Hua to risk his life for a man to force himself to agree. He looked down and saw that Zheng Hua had made up his mind. He knew that Zheng Hua was determined to marry, but Zheng Hua is also Holy Prince of the Holy Dynasty. So, how could it be possible to marry a Ri Yao dynasty that was weaker than theirs? Isn't this the big joke of the slippery world? Jun Yi took a deep breath, suppressed the irritability in his heart, and asked in a cold voice, if you want to marry, the emperor brother will not stop you, but you must understand that you are the prince of Junhua of the Holy Dynasty. If you marry, where will you the face of our dynasty go? Since ancient times, there has been no reason for a prince to marry. The younger brother is willing to step down from the throne. Junhua replied with a serious face. Very good, very good. You are completely ignoring your imperial brother for a man. Jun Yi gritted his teeth angrily. He had guarded his younger brother for more than 20 years, but finally left him for a man. At this moment, he feels like an old father abandoned by his children, and his heart is sad. Junhua was at a loss for words. It is true that he knows better than anyone that his brother is good to him, but now he has to leave his brother to deal with this huge country for Baiming Qianyu, which is really ungrateful. But let him watch Baiming Qianyu die, but he can't do it. Whenever he thinks of that person dying on the battlefield, his heart hurts so much that he can't help himself, and he wants to die on the spot. The air froze for a moment, and the two were speechless. At this moment, Yi Yang pushed open the door of the Xinghe Palace, looked at the two who were standing and kneeling, and complained, I really can't listen to such a simple question. Why are you two confused? It's so complicated? Yi Yang, who was eavesdropping on the whole process, rolled his eyes and did not give face to the two people above 10,000 and one below 10,000. Jun Yi was not at all unhappy about Yi Yang's unauthorized intrusion into the Xinghe Palace, and immediately greeted him, Does my beloved concubine have any good plans? Yi Yang snorted twice and said, There is no such thing as a plan. But this matter is easy to solve. Since both of them have their minds to become husband and wife, then they won't marry, just get married. What a simple question, what's the entanglement? Yi Yang finally understood the content of the second day of the letter to the relatives. The original content was that Baiming Qianyu threatened Junhua with his own life. If Junhua did not marry, then he would die for Junhua to see. Tisk, this Baiming Qianyu is really a ruthless person. Don't marry, just get married? Jun Yi fell silent. Although Yi Yang's words were not wrong, they felt a little wrong. Yes, when both parties get married, neither one will marry low, and no one will be high. They will reselect a house to become their new home. And they will never be separated from each other. Yi Yang looked at Junhua, who was kneeling and unwilling to get up, and asked with a smile, Holy Prince, what do you think? Junhua was silent. This is good or not, but he doesn't know if Baiming Qianyu will agree. However, his worries were completely unnecessary, because Baiming Qianyu, who was far away from Yushui Gate, received a letter from the Holy City spies. He opened the envelope and looked at the words in the letter, his throat suddenly sweet, and the unique smell of blood permeated his mouth. He didn't expect that Junhua really didn't care whether he was dead or alive. Seeing in the letter that the food and forage of the Holy Dynasty had left the Holy City, followed by the army of 300,000 people, he wanted to laugh, laughing that his infatuation was nothing in Junhua's eyes. He squeezed the blood in his throat and handed the second marriage letter to Leng Yi. Since Junhua doesn't marry, then if he gets married, even if it is a stalker, he will pester Junhua to marry him. Leng Yi took the marriage letter, hesitated for a moment, and asked, My lord, do you really want to send this letter of marriage to the Holy Dynasty? Holy Prince Junhua. Baiming Qianyu glanced at Leng Yi, and asked indifferently, Do you have a way to tie the Holy Prince back? Leng Yi shook his head. He had fought against Yun Yi before, that man's martial arts were unfathomable, and he was not an opponent. So it was completely nonsense that he wanted to kidnap the Holy Prince from Yun Yi's hands. Since there's no other way, why don't you send someone to send the marriage letter? Biming Qianyu sighed and stopped talking. It's just that their marriage proposal has not had time to send out, and Wu Ying, who has been staying in the holy city to inquire about news, sent the latest news with a flying pigeon. When Leng Yi received the news, he was happier than Biming Qianyu, and hurriedly rushed into Biming Qianyu's tent with a note, "Your Highness, good news. The Holy Prince has returned to the Holy City." I also heard Wu Ying say, "Emperor Shengdu has sent messengers here. It seems that there is something important to discuss." After hearing the discussion, Biming Qianyu, who had been dull for a long time, finally showed a smile. Since there is something to discuss, then his marriage with Junhua will be interesting. And the surrounding small countries saw that Biming Qianyu led 200,000 troops to guard opposite Yushui Gate, and they all thought that the two sides were going to go to war. Just when these small countries sent messengers to Yushui Gate to negotiate with Biming Qianyu, at the same time, a piece of exciting news came. What? Prince Junhua of the Holy Dynasty actually wants to marry the regent of the Riyao Dynasty? It's fake. Why didn't the regent of the Riyao Dynasty follow the way they thought? Why do you want to marry Prince Junhua? Are you willing to sacrifice your color to save your life? Also, why did Prince Junhua agree to marry the regent of the Riyao Dynasty? Doesn't this regent have someone he likes? Why are you still marrying the regent? Aren't you afraid that the two will get married after marriage? More importantly, the two are obviously married. But why did the regent of the Riyao Dynasty give the entire country to the Holy Dynasty? The princes and nobles of some small countries were unhappy, and they messed with Biming Qianyu behind their backs, saying that Biming Qianyu sacrificed his color to confuse the Holy Prince in order to protect all the children of their Biming family. As a commoner of the Holy Dynasty, when they heard that Prince Junhua, who was both civil and military, wanted to marry the regent of the Riyao Dynasty, they were all filled with righteous indignation. With the current strength of the Holy Dynasty, are you afraid that you will not be able to defeat the Riyao Dynasty? Why should they wrong their Prince Junhua? But, no matter how unwilling, their saints are so showy, they even set the wedding date for the two of them. Just when everyone was indignant, the imperial list came down, and the Riyao Dynasty belonged to the Holy Dynasty from now on. After hearing about the wedding in the Holy City, the people of the Holy Dynasty were satisfied. The co-authored Prince Regent took the entire country as a dowry and married them to our Holy Prince. Oops, I earned it, now it's the people of the original Riyao Dynasty to cry. The wedding day of the Holy Prince and the Prince Regent can be described as the sound of gongs and drums and the sound of firecrackers. This festive atmosphere makes the entire holy city surrounded by laughter. The children gathered around the gate of the Holy Prince's mansion, begging for wedding candy and eating sweet candies. At night, the weather at the beginning of spring was still a bit wet and cold, but it couldn't resist the excitement of everyone. They all rushed to the street and looked up at the starry sky. It was written in the newspaper before that there was a fireworks show on the wedding night of the Holy Prince. People with better family conditions brought their families and worked tirelessly to come from various states and counties, wanting to see with their own eyes whether the fireworks that were blown up by people were really as beautiful as they say. Suddenly, a harsh sound broke the whispers of everyone, and everyone looked up to the sky, only to see a group of colored rays of light rising rapidly, leaving behind a gray smoke. Bang! A firework bloomed in the air, and quickly split into countless small light spots, illuminating the night sky, and fixing it in the hearts of everyone. Looking at the beautiful fireworks blooming in the night sky, all of them show their amazed eyes. It is so beautiful, how can there be such beautiful fireworks in this world? In a short moment, the fireworks quickly went out, and everything returned to calm. But the beauty of that moment became eternal. Just when everyone felt sorry for them, the fireworks quickly rose from the surrounding of the Holy Prince's mansion and then exploded in the air. The huge fireworks bloomed and extinguished quickly in the air, always tugging people's heartstrings. Baiming Qianyu, dressed in red, was lying on the reclining chair in the courtyard. He tightly hugged Junhua, who was snuggling in his arms. He looked at the night sky lit by fireworks, and sighed softly, such a powerful weapon. It's a waste to be used for entertainment. If such terrifying fireworks were detonated in front of the enemy, most of the enemies would definitely look up at the fireworks in the sky, and if you put some poison in the fireworks, the effect is simply chilling. Although the fireworks in the sky were noisy, Junhua in his arms heard him muttering to himself, and explained with a smile. My emperor brother proposed this idea before, but the imperial concubine felt that this was too cruel. So he rejected the proposal of the emperor brother. Heavenly fire god punishment? Baiming Qianyu looked incredulous. Isn't that a sacred artifact of the Holy Dynasty? As a weapon? He has also heard of the punishment of the heavenly fire god of the Holy Dynasty. He heard that anyone who is punished by the heavenly fire god will be punished by the heavenly fire god and burned to death. What fetish thing that thing is. Junhua couldn't bear to say it outright. When he learned that heavenly fire god punishment was actually extracted from urine, Sangguan shattered to the ground. What is it? Baiming Qianyu, who was aroused by curiosity, asked. Junhua whispered in Baiming Qianyu's ear for a while, and the expression on Baiming Qianyu's face gradually changed from shock to disgust. He really didn't expect that the heavenly fire god punishment, respected by the world, was actually extracted from urine. This, do you want to be so disgusting? Seeing that the fireworks in the sky were gradually decreasing, Baiming Qianyu knew that tonight's fireworks show was about to come to an end, so he stood up, picked up Junhua, and walked towards Junhua's room. That night, the crabs crawled over. The next morning, the streets and alleys of the holy city were literally full of people, and people crowded towards the city gate. If they didn't leave, they were afraid that they would be squeezed to death in the city. Outside the city gate, several young boys selling newspapers waved the newspapers in their hands while shouting to sell newspapers. Selling newspapers and selling newspapers. Yesterday's fireworks and firecrackers are about to be put on Lan Yuxuan's shelves. If you are interested, you can consult the Lan Yuxuan branches in various states and counties. After hearing this, the people who went out of the city were not calm. Such a beautiful, can they buy fireworks too? Thinking that their family can also buy fireworks to set off when they get married, one by one, they were so excited that they bought the new newspapers that came out this morning with money to watch. When they see fireworks and firecrackers, they can buy them at Lan Yuxuan, and they all go home with a smile on their faces.